So yesterday I started a mending project that has turned into a refashioning, and I realized I should totally be documenting this. So I start with these pants. These are vintage, I think mid to late 90s, probably late 90s. Picked them up at an estate sale, and after I got them home, because I bought them for myself, I realized that the elastic was shot. So upon getting them, trying to work on mending them several weeks later, I realized that the elastic had been sewn into the pants. So I couldn't just pull the elastic out and replace it with new. I had to unpick the entire seam. And by the time I was done with that, I didn't want to look at them anymore. So they went into my mending pile where they've been sitting for over a year. So I got them out the other day because I don't have enough summer shorts and warm weather pants. So I got on the machine and I zigzagged this down and created a channel and ran some new elastic. While I was doing that, two things happened. Number one, I discovered that these pants, which are kind of high water on me, I'm not sure if they're supposed to be capris for tall people or what. I discovered this nasty stain, and there's a matching one on the other leg. And because these are vintage and had clearly been hanging in someone's closet for a number of years, I don't have any hopes for getting this out. Maybe OxyClean will work some magic, but I don't have the patience for that, and I was probably going to cut them off anyway. So I cut them off above the stain on both sides. And then I got inspired by something in my stash, and that would be this. This is a quilt topper that I picked up at a garage sale. It was a Airbnb going out of business, and she had the cutest stuff in there, and this was super cheap. I want to say I paid $2 or $3 for this. It was dirt cheap. It is just a quilt top. It's not been finished. There's no batting, there's no thing on the back, there's no quilting, but it's got a lot of flaws. So there are a lot of these seams that didn't get sewn correctly and have come undone. So I don't know if this was a beginner project. I'm not sure. So there's some more where it started to fray. So those are going to have to be restitched back together to keep this all intact. And that makes it ideal for repurposing, which is what I bought it for originally. Now, these fabrics kind of read 60s to 70s to me, so I feel like, it's at least my age, right? So anyway, scrolling through some ideas on Pinterest inspired me to cut some of this off and do something on these pants. This is a twin size, so it's large. I have a lot of fabric to work with in regards to how many projects I can make out of this. So I cut a piece that was 2 rows wide, or 2 blocks. 2 rows of blocks. Okay, I'm not a quilter. So anyway, I got those 2 rows cut off, and I pinned them to the leg using a method I've seen on Tracy Myers' channel. So T. Myers, I can't even remember the name of her channel. Anyway, if you look up Tracy Myers, you're going to find her on YouTube. She does awesome refashions, and I watch her all the time. And she does this method where she pins it on one end and then finds the center and then pins that, and then you keep finding the center. And I'll probably try to walk through that when I get ready to pin this one on. But I got that pinned on the other piece on the other leg, and I got it sewn on with my machine last night. So here's where we're at. I have this ruffle at the bottom of my pant leg. Now this is short. I cut this off to like where it's going to hit right at my knee, or slightly above, maybe just above my knee. And then I have this at the bottom. I will probably put a tiny little finished hem in the bottom of this. I had to do a lot of trimming. There's a lot of raw threads and edges under here, but as this is a personal project, I'm not really concerned about how that's going to look on the inside. But again, I will probably do a finished hem. I haven't decided if I'm going to add any lace or trim or anything else to this, but this looks super adorable, and I'm excited about this one. Now it's got pockets on the front. It's got nice deep pockets on the front, so don't want to do anything to interfere with the nice pockets that are already here, but she got no pockets on the back. And I need a place to put my phone. So let's be real. So I have some more scraps from a different piece that I picked up at, I think this came out of the hoarder house. I guess at some point I'll have to tell the hoarder house story. And I think it's somebody's beginner piecing project, because it's not, I cut some stuff off of this. So anyway, my thinking is I can press down a little tiny fold crease on this and then just stitch it down, and I'll roll it under at the top. And I'm trying to make a pocket big enough for my phone to fit in. Actually, last night as I was looking at this, I may have to sew some bias to it. I had to go ahead and cut it off because it was like an angled piece. It was weird. Originally, I think it had been more square, but somebody had cut it down and had cut a chunk off of it, which left some weird angles on the fabric. So I'm going to have to probably add a little bias or something to the edge to give me more fabric to turn in, to give me a larger pocket. But that was my thinking, is make this into a pocket, because that way it's got some finished fabric on the back and it's not going to get anything caught up in it when I try to use it. I want a usable pocket. But then I also have these guys, which are from a different, actually they're from the same estate sale as the pants. So not from here and not from here, but from the same estate sale that I got the pants at. And there's a whole bag of these that I purchased that were all made out of old cutter quilts. Most of them are like traditional quilt colors, soft muted colors, and they have been sewn into little heart pillows. And I've got some that I have finished. I've got a stack to a few more to finish, and I'm probably going to make them into garlands. They can be bowl filler. We'll just see. I've got quite a few, and those are going to eventually be for sale somewhere. But I have these few. There's like 4 of them that are these really bright, intense and more intense colors that are not the soft pastel muted colors or the soft blues and reds of the other ones. I've got these. So I'm thinking that once I get this pocket done, I would like to put maybe one of these hearts here at the end of the pocket, and that maybe I would like to put some more on the front. And then I realized I have a bunch of yo-yos in all kinds of calico colors, and I've embellished with those before. And so I'm thinking there's quite a bit that can happen with these. So I'm going to get started pinning the next row of fabric on the other leg, and I'll come back. Okay, so here is I remember the name of her channel, T. Myers Handmade. Here's Tracy's method for kind of coming up with a simple way to gather without having to run a gathering stitch or any of that stuff. So I have pinned the outer seam to the edge of the pants on this side, and then pull the whole strip out, find dead center on the end of that, and pin it to the seam here. So now from here, I find the center of this. And this is all very approximate, but it worked just fine on the other one. So I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to take this and pin this down to the center here. And then keep doing that, where I find the center of this one and pin it down until you've got enough of it pinned in place that you can run it through the sewing machine. So I'm going to finish pinning. Okay, I've got it all pinned all the way around, and I'm fixing to stitch it up. Okay, I got the ruffles sewed on. I'm not sure how well you can see here like this, but this is adorable. These are so cute. And I'm going to put the hem in the bottom of these. And I started working on the pocket. I decided to just piece together some of the strips I cut off. And so like I sewed a separate piece here and then here. And then I went and flipped it over and got that sewn down so that I can sew them to the pants. I'm going to stitch the top and bottom corners by hand. And then I'll work on getting all the pants. Okay, I got the ruffle sewn on both legs, and now I'm going to move on to adding a pocket to the back of the pants. So these pants have nice big pockets in the front, but nothing in the back. And like I think I said before, I want a pocket to put my phone in. So this is what I've got so far. I've got this cut down, and hemmed, and it's not great. I'm having some issues with my sewing machine, so I'm just gonna have to make it work. So this is not straight or perfect by any stretch, and I do want to cover up the corners where the stitching does not look good. So I started to pull from my stash of yo-yos that I already have made. I have a whole bucket of these from making hair accessories out of them. If anybody's interested in seeing how I make those, I would be more than happy to show you guys. I did take inspiration from a girl on Etsy years ago. I think her paw shop was called Itty Bitty Birdie. She was from the UK. She made super adorable hair things out of yo-yos. Anyway, so I have my little stash of yo-yos, and I've started stitching the first one on here. I'm just doing a blanket stitch in some embroidery floss, and I've got a couple of fun colors I'm going to use here on that. And I'm going to start stitching and get the embellishments put on, and then I'm going to sew them to the pants. Okay, I got the pocket attached. I originally started blanket stitch everywhere, and it puckered the whole thing up, and I had to take it apart. So I kept the blanket stitch on one side. I did some little, like, crosshatch stitch across the bottom, and then just a whip stitch here on the side, and I did a blanket stitch and then a whip stitch here on the yo-yos. And I deliberately made it kind of like uneven. I want it to look very homestead, homemade kind of thing. And so that's on. And now I'm going to work on the flip side. I've got yo-yos pinned in place here at the pocket. I like that. And then I went around the edge of this with a zigzag stitch because I was worried about washability, and I didn't want the batting to start coming apart when I wash it. Because these are denim weight, and I don't want to have to hand wash these. I want to be able to put them in the washer on delicate. So this is, like I said, zigzagged, and then I've pinned it in place. I'm going to put it here. I think this looks super cute like that. So now I got to start stitching these down. I'm going to do, I don't know, some kind of decorative embroidered stitch on all these and get those sewn on. I got the last of the embellishments done, so I did the yo-yos here with some blanket stitching and some whip stitching, and then I did the blanket stitching around here, and then I decided to add another one over here. So I zigzagged it just like I did the one on the other side, and then did a blanket stitch around the edge. So I think I'm happy with them where they are. So now I just need to style them. So I'll be back and I'll show you that. Okay, here's how I styled the pants. This is a thrifted Democracy Brands, like minty green floral with yellows and pinks. And I'm wearing handmade lace earrings with this little vintage yellow applique that I attached to them. And then here's pants, and they have the heart patch here, some yo-yos here. I have another heart patch here, and here's my cell phone pocket on the back. And I think they turned out super cute. I've already worn them to the grocery store. And it's Wednesday, so I'm wearing them to church tonight, and we'll see what everybody else thinks. I think they're adorable. Anyway, let me know what you think.